We couldn't fit my entire conversation with the I-74 Bridge Project Manager Daniel Alvarez into this week's For the Record program. Here's the rest of that interview, beginning with the one emergency that happened on the site during the construction so far. Now, you had a scare the first year of construction. 2 workers actually wound up in the water and needed to be rescued. You responded very quickly and they were saved and everything was fine. Actually, they went back to work the same day.
Yes.
What did you learn from that?
Sure. So what we learned from that was definitely that all of the talks that we have about safety and their emergency rescue plans, that all of that practice and talks that they have every morning, that definitely pays off to make sure that you're prepared and for the unexpected, and that they were able to get those 2 folks out of the water in under 2 minutes. That's really a good feeling, and I'm glad that the story had a happy ending.
Have you had any other sort of scares at all on this job?
No, none like that.
None of that. Are there emergency crews always on standby in case something like that actually does happen?
Sure. So we have a very extensive emergency communication plan, and we meet with local emergency services like Mavis 43 and other folks to talk about what phases of construction we're at and how they're able to access the site, and we'll provide walkthroughs and things like that. So the contractor's safety plan is to perform a self-rescue if they're able to right away, because they're the ones that are already on site, but also to keep those other emergency responders engaged.
Now, we talked about earlier the plans calling for the westbound side to open it by the end of next year. You're still confident about that, it sounds like, that you'll be able to get that. Describe to me again how that will work logistically, given the existing traffic patterns that we have, because it sounds like you're going to, I-74 will only have one lane in one direction open, or both directions, or how's that all going to work?
So in the spring of 2019, local traffic will be shifted onto 19th Street in Moline. They will continue on 19th Street to River Drive. 1 lane of I-74 will be maintained Iowa bound over the bridge or over the river, and then they will continue through the local system onto Grant Street and Kimberly to access I-74. So that will impact westbound 74 traffic only. And we'll always maintain that 1 lane westbound or Iowa bound over the river.
Just over the river, but
just over the river.
There's all that widening project that you need to make room for the actual bridge to actually be attached.
Yes, so local traffic will still be able to cross the river. That's the important message to take away. But on either side of the river, I-74 access will be gained on the local system on 19th Street and Kimberly.
And I guess we'd expect the following year the same thing to happen in reverse going into Illinois, something similar.
Sure. In 2020, what will happen is both directions of I-74 traffic will use the new westbound I-74 bridge. So we'll have 2 lanes Iowa bound and 2 lanes Illinois bound. There'll still be impacts to how you get on and off.
Like we have now just on the new bridge, and then you'll be able to work on the other half of the bridge, so then it'll be twice as much capacity. So that first year, that one stretch where you're down to that 1 lane is when the people will feel the most impact.
Correct. 2019 will be the most significant impact to local traffic.
When are people going to actually when do you think the first drivers will be able to be on both the full extent of the bridge? Is there a point in 2020?
Sure. So at the end of 2019, we'll have full access to the new westbound structure. And then the new eastbound structure would be complete at the end of 2020.
End of 2020 is that goal. In 2021, we're talking about the demolition.
2021 would be the demolition of the existing structure.
And everything will be moving along that path. Really, the final question really is, how much are you able to every once in a while just set aside and just look back and appreciate what's actually being done? Are you able to even do that at all?
Sure. We definitely take time to do that, and as I prepared for this to talk about when we had started, I had looked through a few of my notes from about a year ago on where we were then. We were working through obtaining permission from the Coast Guard for our maintenance and navigation plan to allow construction to begin. So it's definitely something that we look back as we just continue through the process and work through our next steps. We're always looking to make sure that we've adequately prepared, and that gives us the time to reflect on what's happened over the past, might be a few days or a few months or weeks.
What do you look forward to most when that, I guess, what your reaction be, or do you think that moment when the bridge is open fully to both directions, 4 lanes each direction?
I'll feel relief at that point. And that will be a good time for everyone, because that's the goal here, is to condense the construction schedule and really minimize the impacts that this has. The construction has on the Quad Cities, because it's definitely a large impact, but we see that there is a very big payoff in the end for the new structures to have quite a lot of increase in capacity and to see what it's revitalized in the downtown areas. I think that will be a good feeling.